Dana White is the biggest parasite in combat sports. Not just MMA, not just UFC. He is the biggest parasite in all of combat sports. Last week proved it. Anything he touches instantly turns to dog shit. Dana White couldn't handle real journalism, real questions. He had to deflect everything. I don't think he answered one question properly. He didn't give one straightforward answer. I know this happened a few days ago, but not a lot of people are talking about this. So we gotta get people talking about this and show them that Dana White is ruining everything, and we cannot let him ruin combat sports.
The top 5 gates in combat sports history come in boxing, and they come in the last 10 years. So my question to you is, why then do you want to make sweeping changes to the Muhammad Ali Reform Act that is meant to protect fighters, to bring about a business model that currently has your company already paid out $375 million in antitrust lawsuits and has 2 potential pending class action lawsuits on the way as well?
We all know Dana White's a scumbag, so the journalist is saying, why would anyone want to join your stupid league when you have a history of not paying fighters and doing shady stuff behind the scenes because you're allowed to, because you refuse to have the Ali Act in your contracts with TKO? And Dana White runs away from that question.
If you want to talk to me about that, set up an interview. This isn't about me and my business. It's about these 2 guys on Saturday night.
My follow-up, Dana, the earlier...
Boo this guy right here. This guy's deflecting the question because Dana White is anti-Ali Act. He does not implement the Ali Act in the UFC, which protects the fighters. And what do you know? When you don't have the Ali Act in the contract, guess what? The promoters don't gotta disclose pay. They can rob fighters of their money. They can do all these things behind the scenes because nothing has to go noticed. That's what Dana White's trying to bring into his TKO boxing league. So the reporter's saying, how's that going to work? It's not working in the UFC. You're paying out lawsuits. You guys owe fighters money that you didn't pay them. Dana White and the UFC are paying the fighters right now because they got caught screwing them over. Because there's no Ali Act to check on the money disclosures. So let's pull up the Ali Act, because this is something that Dana White is allergic to. He will never implement this in his contract in a million years. Here's the Ali Act. The Muhammad Ali Boxing Reform Act is a 2000 federal law that aims to protect professional boxers from exploitation by establishing financial disclosure requirements for promoters and managers. So you have to give disclosure of the fight purses. What else does the Ali Act encourage? Ensuring contract fairness. That's not something Dana White's about. Dana White is not interested in contract fairness, and he's not interested in disclosing fighter pay. What else does the Ali Act encourage or implement? Restrict conflicts of interest between managers and promoters, and helps prevent monopolistic practices in the sport. That's all Dana White is about. Monopolizing the sport for himself. He's a greedy fuck. He's a greedy bastard. He's a greedy baldy. That's why Dana White doesn't want to implement this. There's no Ali Act protecting the fighters, and he doesn't have to disclose anything. But Dana White deflected the question. But this reporter ain't gonna let up. Like I said, a lot of people seen this press conference, but not enough people are talking about it. We gotta remind everyone what this leech Dana White is doing to combat sports.
Earlier this week, the California State Athletic Commission had a hearing about TKO trying to bring those changes to the Ali Act, and it was postponed 3 months.
Listen, I get it. You want to showboat right now. Set up an interview with me if this is really what you want to talk about.
It's America, baby. First Amendment.
The journalist just said it's free speech, America, baby. He just shouted out free speech to Dana White, who is supposedly Mr. Free Speech. I let my fighters say whatever they want. Yeah, right. This is proof of the censorship that Dana White implements in the UFC. And this is proof that Dana White will fire reporters if they ask questions like this. This reporter doesn't give a shit because he's a boxing reporter. Dana White has no control over him. This answers all the questions. Why does the UFC suck in 2025? This guy right here. The journalist just exposed Dana White, and he said, it has been publicly known that you guys are trying to make changes to the Ali Act. This right here. Dana White and TKO do not want this in the fighters' contracts. They don't want fighter pay to be fair. They don't want health care to be fair. They don't care for their fighters in the UFC. He doesn't care about fighter safety. This guy doesn't give a shit about anyone but himself. He's trying to change everything. He doesn't want to disclose finances. He wants as much power as he can. He doesn't want another company to offer his fighters a better offer. He doesn't want the public to know how poorly treated his athletes are. He just kicks them to the curb when he's done with them, pays them pennies. He rips off the most popular fighters and he rips off the low tier fighters. He skimps everybody. Everybody is mistreated. If you bring in all the revenue, he still cuts you short on your payment. If you don't bring in any revenue, he can just say, you know what? You're worthless. And he's trying to implement that shit in boxing. And he thinks that boxers are going to join his fucking promotion because he's Dana White from UFC. Dude, you already can't handle 2 legitimate questions from this boxing press conference. You already broke. There's the proof. Dana White is trying to take away the boxers' rights, their freedom, just like he already has with everyone on the UFC roster. This journalist is putting him on the spot. Look how heated Dana White looks. Look how lost and confused he looks. They never put him on the spot in the UFC press conferences, but this is a boxing press conference.
Listen, I get it. You want to showboat right now. Set up an interview with me if this is really what you want to talk about.
It's America, baby.
If you have
First
questions
Amendment.
for these two,
Whoever thought that someone would be telling Dana White, it's America, baby, First Amendment? That is the exact act that Dana White has been trying to portray for all these years, but now we know it's bullshit. It's bullshit. Dana White's always like, freedom of speech. I don't keep my fighters on a leash. I don't tell them what to say. You're literally on video right now putting journalists on a leash. You're not allowing them to ask certain questions. And this is boxing. You're new to this. You don't run this shit. You run the UFC. You don't run this boxing shit. And you're already trying to implement no freedom of speech. You're already shutting people up. You're cutting them off mid-sentence. You're not letting journalists do their job. Dana White cannot stand freedom of speech. And he's trying to take away the freedom of fighters, and he's trying to take out Ali acts out of the boxing contracts. He's trying to alter it to have the same shitty contract that the UFC fighters have.
Follow-up is, if TKO can't make those changes to the Ali Act, will you still invest in the sport of boxing? Will you compete in the market?
The journalist basically asked Dana, hey, if you can't strip fighters of all their rights in boxing, if you can't implement that slave-like UFC contract into the boxing contracts, are you still going to continue to try to be a boxing promoter?
listen, if you want to be an asshole, let's do it in private and we can do an interview.
Yes or
if
no?
you want to showboat, I get it. If you have questions for these two that are fighting on Saturday, that's a different story.
Showboat. Showboat. Asking a real question is now showboating. Asking a boxing question at a boxing press conference is totally out of line. I can't believe that asshole would do something like that. He should be asking Dana how his day was. He should be asking Dana what he's having for dinner tonight. What the fuck? That's what they do in the UFC, right? Hey Dana, how many celebrities have you hung out with today? Those are the questions that Dana White wants. He can't handle real questions. He throws a temper tantrum.
Fight. This isn't a discussion to have at a press conference for these two that are going to fight on Saturday, two legends. If you want to set up an interview with me and ask me these questions, let's do it one-on-one.
Sounds
and
good.
you can ask me anything you want.
You can ask me anything you want. Yeah. You've not answered one single question yet. Dana's acting like this isn't the time and place to talk about boxing contracts at a boxing press conference. You can only ask the fighters so much about the fight. You can ask other boxing related questions. I mean, why are you at the press conference then, if you're not willing to answer anything? If no questions are allowed to be directed at you, why are you standing there on the podium?
Well, Terrence and Saul have a good fight.
Yeah, you have a question for these two?
No.
No? Beat it. Go ahead. Who's next?
Dana White is the complete opposite of this Ali act right here. He will never, ever treat his fighters fairly. And I don't think fighters need to be paid multi millions all the time. But I'm just saying, treat them fairly. Pay them enough. Pay your UFC fighters enough to where they're not begging and crying to go to boxing every time someone becomes champion. Pay them enough to where they don't want to leave their own sport after every single fight. And not only that, give your fighters some medical care. Look after your fighters. Look it up. Kiefer Crosby said he was concussed by an illegal knee in his last fight, and the UFC did not give him any medical attention. A $7.7 billion company didn't even give their fighter with a concussion any medical treatment. Look it up. Kiefer Crosby. Look at what they do to Johnny Walker. They kick him out of the fucking arena after he won his fight. Final thing I want to say though is, UFC media, you guys should be ashamed of yourselves. You guys are lame. You guys are not journalists. You guys are yes men. You guys are just talking to him about the weather. Nice breeze out today. How many celebrities have you shook hands with today? Who gives a fuck? Ask Dana White questions like these. What's he gonna do? Fire all you guys? If the top 5 media guys ask Dana White these questions, the hard-hitting questions at the pressers, the UFC and combat sports in general will be a lot better because of it. We'll get more interesting press conferences. We could start breaking the trend of dull, mind-numbing questions. And we could start getting the fighters riled up and have real UFC rivalries. We won't be seeing guys shaking hands at every single turn. And I'm going to call out these 3 reporters right here, or journalists. So they call themselves. This guy right here, what's his fucking name? Mike Bond. This guy sucks. This guy asked Dana, how's UFC Abu Dhabi? What's it like sitting front row? I saw you were talking to Kid Rock in the crowd. No one gives a fuck. This guy is nothing but a bought and paid for journalist. This robot right here, Brett Okamoto. Am I showing the pictures of these guys? Brett Okamoto. Like, what the fuck is this? He's a robot. He has nothing interesting. He sounds monotone. He's monotonous in his speaking. He is so dull. I mean, I fell asleep to several of his interviews, several different times, and I've never watched him since. You could basically predict all the questions that are going to come out of his mouth before he even says it. And finally, this fucking guy. These are the MMA journalists. These are the reporters. Who are these fucking goofs? Look at this guy. These guys are all worried about losing their jobs. These guys ain't shit but a bunch of spineless cowards. Name a good question. What is this guy's name? John Morgan. Name a good question John Morgan's ever asked. They're just so mind-numbing. It's like, how does it feel to be at this press conference today? How does it feel to have an opponent finally? Yeah, I'm talking to you, John Morgan. I'm talking to you, Brett Okamoto, you robot. And I'm talking to you, Mike Bond. You guys are disgraceful. Look at the real boxing media. Look at the real boxing media. Look at how they ask Dana White questions. This is how press conferences should be. This guy's ego got way too inflated. He's used to too many yes men. He's used to having too much power. Don't suck up to this greedy bastard over here, Dana White, who's ruining combat sports. And I'm also blaming these journalists for making it easy for Dana White. A hell of a lot easier it is for him to ruin combat sports with those yes men following him around everywhere. distracting us from the real questions, asking brain rot, mind-numbing questions. You guys are to blame as well as Dana White. Sure, they're afraid of losing their jobs, but all you guys should make a collective agreement to not be a bitch, ask some real questions, take inspiration from this boxing reporter. They showed the UFC media how it's done. You guys need to learn something. You guys got to stop being cowards. A bunch of spineless cowards. There's more, but these are just the first 3 that came to mind. UFC media, learn how to do your job, and let's stop Dana White from ruining combat sports. Peace, I'm out. Hit like, hit subscribe.